You were manipulated today, probably more than once. And the scary part isn't that it happened, it's that you didn't notice and you'd swear you didn't, not by some evil genius. By a salesperson, an app, a coworker, a relative. Sometimes by people who genuinely like you, using tricks they don't even realize are tricks. Because these techniques are so common, so woven into normal life, that they've become invisible. They work because you think nothing is happening. Today I'm going to hand you the 5 most common manipulation tricks used on ordinary people every single day. What they are, why your brain falls for them automatically, and exactly how to shut each one down. And the 5th one is the most personal of all, because it's the one used by the people closest to you. The people who say they love you. Once you can see these 5, you can never be played by them the same way again. Let's pull the strings. Let me prove how invisible this is. Think back over just the last day or two. Did anyone do you a small favor or give you something free? A sample, a gift, a compliment, a "don't worry, I've got this," and a little while later, you found yourself agreeing to something you might otherwise have said no to. That wasn't a coincidence. That was a trick firing right on schedule. Did you buy, click, or commit to something partly because it was almost gone, ending soon, or only a few left? That was another one. Did you say yes to someone mainly because they were just so nice, so charming, so much like you, and saying no felt almost rude? That was a third. Here's the uncomfortable truth. These tricks don't work on gullible people. They work on everyone because they're not aimed at your intelligence. They're aimed at deep, automatic mental shortcuts that every human brain runs. Shortcuts that are usually helpful, which is exactly why they can be hijacked. You can be the smartest person in the room and still get played, because the play happens below the level of conscious thought. So over the next few minutes, I'll break down all 5, each with the exact situations you'll meal eat it in, and a simple defense that disarms it on the spot. We'll go from the everyday transactional ones to the deeply personal one at number 5. The guilt trip used by the people closest to you, the hardest one to see and the hardest one to escape. Let's start with the oldest trick there is. Trick number 1 is the oldest and most powerful of them all, reciprocity. The simple rule is this: when someone gives you something, you feel a deep, almost physical need to give something back. And manipulators weaponize that. This instinct runs incredibly deep in humans. For our ancestors, sharing and returning favors was the glue of survival. The person who took but never gave back got cut off from the group. So we evolved to hate feeling indebted. An unreturned favor sits in your chest like an itch you need to scratch. And here's the catch: that itch doesn't care whether you asked for the favor in the first place. That's the trap. A manipulator gives you something small and unsolicited, a free sample, a little gift, a surprise favor, even just an unexpected compliment, and now you're carrying a sense of debt you never agreed to. So when they ask for something afterward, saying no feels wrong, ungrateful. You comply, not because you wanted to, but to make the itch go away. That free sample at the store wasn't generosity. It was an investment, and they expect a return. The free gift in the mail with a donation request is doing the exact same thing. So is the colleague who does you an unprompted favor right before asking for one back. How to shut it down: separate the gift from the request. A genuine gift comes with no strings. You can enjoy it and owe nothing. So when someone gives you something and then asks for something, pause and recognize what's happening. You're allowed to accept a kindness and still say no to the ask. The debt you feel was manufactured to move you, and you are not obligated to repay a favor you never requested. Enjoy the sample. Keep your no. Trick number 2 is a cousin of reciprocity, and it's brilliant: the door in the face. Here, someone makes a first request so big they fully expect you to refuse it. And the refusal is the whole plan. Watch how it works. They ask for something outrageous. You say no, of course. Then they back down to a much smaller request, the one they actually wanted all along. And 2 things happen in your head at once. First, by comparison to the giant ask, the smaller one now looks totally reasonable, almost modest. And second, this is the sneaky part, because they compromised by lowering their request, you feel a pull to compromise too, to meet them halfway. You say yes to the second ask, feeling like you both reached a fair middle. You didn't. You landed exactly where they aimed from the start. You've seen this everywhere. The negotiator who opens with a wild price so the real price feels like a deal. The kid who asks to stay out all night so that asking to stay out 2 extra hours seems harmless. The coworker who asks for a massive favor, then settles for the medium one they actually needed. The big ask was never serious. It was a launchpad for the small one. Quick note: this is the mirror image of a trick we covered before, the foot in the door, where someone starts small and grows the ask. This one starts huge and shrinks it. Opposite directions, same goal. Move you using contrast. How to shut it down: judge every request on its own merits, alone, as if the first one never happened. Ask yourself, forgetting what they asked first, do I actually want to say yes to this? The smaller ask isn't reasonable just because it's smaller than something absurd. And their compromise wasn't a gift to you. It was the plan. You don't owe a concession in return for a fake one. Trick number 3 runs on one of your most primitive fears, missing out. It's scarcity. The rule: we want things far more when we believe they're rare, running out, or about to disappear. There's a quirk deep in the human mind. The moment something becomes hard to get, our desire for it spikes, sometimes regardless of whether we even wanted it much before. Part of it is an ancient instinct that scarce things are valuable things. Part of it is that we hate losing the opportunity even more than we wanted the item. A possibility slipping away feels like a loss, and we're wired to avoid loss at almost any cost. So manipulators manufacture scarcity, constantly. Only 2 left in stock. Sale ends at midnight, limited edition. 3 other people are looking at this right now. Each one is engineered to do the same thing: trigger panic, kill your careful thinking, and stampede you into an instant decision. Because they know that if you had time to calmly consider, you might walk away. Urgency is the enemy of good judgment, and that's exactly why they create it. The countdown timer isn't there to inform you, it's there to stop you from thinking. And it's not just shopping. It shows up in dating games. They'll lose interest if you don't act now. In high-pressure opportunities, this offer won't come again. In any situation where someone wants you to leap before you look. How to shut it down: treat artificial urgency as a giant red flag, not a reason to hurry. When you feel that scarcity panic, do the one thing it's designed to prevent: slow down. Ask, would I actually want this if it were freely available, with no clock and no countdown? If the answer is no, then you don't want the thing, you're just afraid of the loss. And that fear was installed on purpose. Real opportunities can usually survive you taking a breath. Manufactured ones can't, which is exactly why they rush you. Trick number 4 is the most pleasant one, which is exactly what makes it dangerous: liking. The rule is simple and well proven. We say yes far more easily to people we like. So a skilled manipulator's first move often isn't to make an argument. It's to make you like them, fast. This works because liking feels like a reason. When someone is warm, charming, and seems to genuinely get you, your guard drops. You assume a likable person is a trustworthy person, and a trustworthy person's requests must be fair. But likability and honesty are completely unrelated, and manufacturing instant likability is a learnable skill that con artists, salespeople, and charmers have mastered. Watch for the ingredients they use to fast-track it: flattery, generous, specific-sounding compliments, because we struggle to dislike someone who admires us, even when we suspect they're laying it on. Manufactured similarity: suddenly they love everything you love. They're just like you, they grew up the same way. Because we trust people we see as our own kind. Mirroring: subtly copying your posture, your pace, your words, so you feel an eerie, comfortable familiarity. And rushed warmth: an intensity of connection that feels wonderful but arrives far faster than real trust ever should. The salesperson who becomes your instant best friend. The charmer who makes you feel like the most fascinating person alive within 10 minutes. The scammer whose whole method is making you feel a deep, fast bond. The warmth is real feeling. The agenda underneath it is the trick. How to shut it down. Deliberately separate 2 questions that liking tries to glue together. Do I like this person? And is what they're asking actually good for me? Those are different questions with different answers. So when you notice strong, fast rapport, especially right before a request, gently flag it. I really like this person. Now let me look at the deal on its own. And treat rushed intimacy and heavy flattery as signals to slow down, not speed up. Genuine connection has nothing to fear from you taking your time. Manufactured connection always does. And trick number 5 is the most personal, the hardest to see and the hardest to resist. Because it's almost never used by strangers, it's used by the people closest to you. It's the guilt trip. Here's how it works. Instead of asking you directly for something, the person makes you feel responsible for their emotions, and then positions your compliance as the only way to relieve the bad feeling they're displaying. You're not persuaded. You're made to feel guilty until you give in. You know the moves, because you've felt them. The heavy sigh and the no, it's fine, I'll just do it all myself, designed to make you feel like a monster for not jumping in. The after everything I've done for you, weaponizing the past to extract the present. The wounded silence. The I guess I just don't matter to you. The tears deployed at the precise moment you say no. None of it is a direct request. All of it makes their pain your fault, so that the only way to stop feeling like a terrible person is to do what they want. What makes this so hard is that it comes wrapped in real relationships and real love. A stranger's guilt trip you can shrug off. But when it's a parent, a partner, a close friend, the bond is genuine, which makes the manipulation almost impossible to call out, and calling it out can feel like a betrayal in itself. That's exactly why it's so effective. And often the person doing it isn't a cold schemer. They may have learned long ago that guilt gets results, and they reach for it without fully realizing what it is. That doesn't make it okay, But it does mean the goal isn't to declare them evil. It's to stop being controlled by it. How to shut it down. Learn this one crucial line. You are responsible for your own actions, but you are not responsible for managing someone else's manufactured emotions. Real needs can be stated directly. I need help with this, can you? That deserves a real answer. But a guilt trip isn't a request, it's a punishment for a no you haven't even fully said yet. So when you feel that heavy fog of guilt descend right as you're trying to decline something, name it to yourself. This is guilt being used to move me. You can be kind, you can care about them deeply, and still hold your no. Caring about someone never required surrendering your right to choose. So there they are, the 5 tricks running on you every day. The gift that creates debt, the huge ask that shrinks, the clock that kills your judgment, the charm that lowers your guard, and the guilt that makes their feelings your fault. Now notice the one thing every single one of them has in common. They all work by creating a feeling that rushes you into a yes, indebtedness, panic, affection, guilt, and they all collapse the same way. When you slow down and separate the feeling from the decision, that's your master key. The feeling is real, but the feeling is not the same as the right answer. So here's your universal defense, the one move that disarms all 5. When you feel a sudden pressure to say yes, pause and name it. I feel indebted right now. I feel rushed. I feel charmed, I feel guilty. The instant you name the feeling, you pull the decision out of your automatic, reactive brain and into your conscious one. And these tricks only work in the automatic one. A manipulation you can name is a manipulation that's already losing its grip. You don't have to become cold, suspicious, or cynical. You can still be generous, still buy things, still love people, still help. The goal isn't to trust no one. It's to make your yes an actual choice, given on purpose from your conscious mind, instead of a reflex pulled out of you by a string you couldn't even see. Now you can see all 5. Here's what changes after today. You'll feel the debt and recognize the gift was an investment. You'll catch the shrinking ask and judge it on its own. You'll feel the clock and refuse to be rushed. You'll notice the charm and weigh the deal separately. And you'll feel the guilt and remember it's not your job to manage someone else's feelings. None of this makes you harder to love. It makes you harder to play. And there's a real difference. If this opened your eyes, the next one goes deeper still, because next, I'll show you the exact words every manipulator uses. The specific phrases engineered to control you in a single sentence. And at least one of them, you have almost certainly heard this week. Subscribe, and let's keep pulling these threads. This is Never Heard About.